Hello. So, in today's lesson, we're going to be looking at solving quadratics by factorizing. Now, the reason I've specified by factorizing is because there are three main ways we can look at solving quadratics. One is by factorizing, another method is using the quadratic formula, and the final method is by completing the square. But for today's lesson, all we're going to focus on is factorizing. Okay, so on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the generic formula for a quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And now, let's take a look at how we can factorize a quadratic. Okay. So when we factorize, there are two things we're looking for. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give c, and also add to give b. And then once we've found those two numbers, we put those into separate brackets, and from there we can solve. There's not much else to it, but I understand this might be a little bit confusing, so let's take a look at an example. If, for example, we have a question or an equation that says x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0, we need to find two numbers that multiply to give 6 and then also add to give 5. And so it might be obvious in this example. However, if you're not sure what those two numbers are, what I recommend is taking the number that you need to multiply, or the number that you need to get as an answer when you multiply, and write out all of the factors for that number. So in this question, the number we have to try and multiply to get is 6. So I'm going to write down the factors of 6. Now we've got 1 and 6, and we've also got 2 and 3. Now, those same two numbers need to add to give 5. So if we add 1 and 6, we get 7, which isn't quite correct, so we can ignore that. And if we check the other set of factors, we have 2 plus 3, which does give 5. So we know that in our answer, the two numbers we're interested in are 2 and 3. Now from here, what we do is in brackets, we would say x plus 2 multiplied by x plus 3 equals 0. And if you were just asked to factorize this quadratic, that would be your answer. However, because we're solving, we need to do a little bit more. So from here, all we need to do is think about, if x plus 2 multiplied by x plus 3 equals 0, what could the values of x be? So we'll focus on the left-hand side first, so x plus 2, and we need to think, how can we make that 0? So what value does x have to be for x plus 2 to equal 0? And the way we do that is we would just write x plus 2 equals 0, and then solve that for x. So from that we can figure out that x must be equal to negative 2. And in the same way we do that for the other bracket, so x plus 3. And if we do that, we can say that x plus 3 equals 0. And then if we rearrange to solve for x, we know that x is equal to negative 3. Perfect. And you can see as well that we have two answers. So most of the time when we solve quadratics, we will have two answers. And the way we write those answers is we just say x equals negative 2 and x equals negative 3. And that's that. So that was one example, and the numbers in that question were quite, not easy, but they were quite nice. Now let's take a look at another example where the numbers are a little bit harder. So let's say we have another quadratic, and in this case x squared plus 7x plus, actually hold on, let's make this harder. So let's say x squared minus 2x minus 35 equals 0. Right, so because we have negative numbers in this instance, our answer will look a little bit trickier. It will be slightly different, but the steps are exactly the same. So, just like before, we need to find two numbers that multiply to give us minus 35. It's important that we include that minus. And then also two numbers that add to give negative 2. Okay, so because this is trickier, I'm going to write out the factors, and that should make it easier for us to figure out what those two numbers we need are. So first off, we have 1 and 35. We also have 3. No, we don't. Sorry. We also have 5 and 7. And I believe that is it. So, if we take away or add 1 and 35, we don't get negative 2. With the 5 and 7, if we add them, we get 12, which isn't correct. However, if we subtract 5 from 7, then if we subtract 7 from 5, we get negative 2. And that is the number we're looking for. So in this instance, the pair of numbers that we're looking for is 5 and 7. Right. So now what we do is we put this in brackets. So we have x plus 5 multiplied by x plus 7. And at this point, because we have minuses in our question, we know that some of our numbers, i.e. the 5 or the 7, will be a minus. And what we need to do is figure out which one. So, we could either have positive 5 and negative 7, or we could have negative 5 and positive 7. And if you're not sure which one, I recommend just doing the calculations out in your head. So if we have positive 5 and negative 7, that gives us minus 2. And minus 2 is the number that we're interested in. So we know in this case we need to change our second set of brackets from x plus 7 to x minus 7. Right, and now we do the same thing. So if we focus on the left hand side, we can say that x plus 5 equals 0. Therefore, x must equal negative 5. And then again, for the right hand bracket, so x minus 7, we know that x minus 7 equals 0. So x must be equal to positive 7. And then all we do is rewrite our answer. So we will just say x equals negative 5 and x equals positive 7. And that is it. So unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. However, in an actual lesson, I would then give some past paper questions for the student to practice, ranging from easy to hard, to really test their understanding of the topic. Thank you very much.